Just a joke.
Say good evening. Welcome to our Council and Committee of the Whole meeting for March 18th. Bienvenue à notre réunion de conseil pour le 18 mars. To open this evening, I'd like to pass the floor to Councillor Rivard for our land acknowledgement.
Merci. Je souhaite prendre un moment pour souligner l'importance du territoire sur lequel nous sommes rassemblés. La municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest reconnaît avec respect que nous sommes réunis sur la terre ancestrale du peuple Anishinaabe, sur le territoire traditionnel de Première Nation Nipissing, Temagami et Dokis, désigné par le traité Robinson-Huron. Nous honorons leur lien historique avec le territoire et nous valorisons leur contribution considérable au façonnement et au renforcement de nos communautés. Ce faisant, nous réaffirmons notre engagement et notre responsabilité envers la réconciliation et l'amélioration de notre compréhension des peuples autochtones locaux et de leur culture.
Merci. Number 2 on the agenda, I'll take any declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. 3, approve the addendum.
It is moved by Councillor Restoul and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the addendum for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on March 18th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. The agenda, please.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Restoul. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on March 18th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. This evening, we have no delegations or petitions, so we'll move to item number 5, Committee of the Whole, and we'll be opening with Planning Committee, and for that, I will pass the chair to our chair, Councillor St. Louis, Councillor St. Louis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under Planning and Committee, we have one item, 5.1.1 Housekeeping Amendment, Zoning Bylaw. After having a review of it, it was submitted by yourself, so if you want to speak to it, I'll
Yes.
give you the floor.
Certainly. I actually came across this quite accidentally as I was doing a review of the existing official plan against the draft of the new official plan. I came across this item and we had a very recent application through Committee of Adjustment that was applicable to this. And I had some concerns in regards to the Committee of Adjustment making a decision that was contrary to the policies set out in the official plan. I did reach out to staff for some clarification, but with Mr. Barbeau on holiday, a well-deserved holiday, I will say, last week, I just thought it best to bring it to council to address this. There is a requirement under the Planning Act that the zoning bylaw be consistent and compliant with the official plan. So I did want to note that the policies in the 2 documents are inconsistent at this time.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Conseiller Gagné?
Yeah, could we have an explanation of what's inconsistent between the?
Sure. So in the official plan, a sleep cabin is defined basically as a bed with a shed. So there is to be no bathroom, plumbing, or kitchen facilities. In the zoning bylaw, the definitions read only to restrict kitchen facilities. And the wording in the official plan is quite specific, like there's no ambiguity about it. It says that, well, the definition is there, but it says that if sewage and water services are required, council may permit, not Committee of Adjustment, but council may permit the additional cabin subject to the parcel being otherwise eligible for severance and that the buildings be located in conformity with the provisions of the plan as if the lots were separated. So if we were to permit a sleep cabin with plumbing, according to the official plan, that sleep cabin would need to be located in such a way that it could be severed into 2 lots and those buildings would be on 2 lots, conforming to the zoning bylaws as far as setbacks and stuff like that. So it's very prescribed, like it's a very specific kind of wording within the official plan, which doesn't allow for a lot of flexibility. My concern is that for both Committee of Adjustment, which is a quasi judicial body that makes decisions that stand outside of council, but also on a planning perspective, and any items that we would see, our decisions do need to conform with the policies set out in the official plan.
Yeah, follow-up question?
Yeah.
So I remember we had this kind of request at the planning in regards to a resident that made a request.
Mm-hmm.
And because the lot size didn't accommodate the needed allocation in the current zoning bylaw, we did not permit that separation, right?
I'd have to, I don't
I thought we
recall.
forced them to keep them together because I knew they mentioned they wanted to try to keep it separately. But if they wanted to run it as a full, I think they requested, because the lot size wasn't big enough, they needed to merge the two lots together.
Oh, that's the commercial application.
Yeah.
I know which one that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is that something similar to that or not really?
That would more fall, I think, under accessory dwelling units and whether or not two dwelling units are permitted.
Okay,
So it's a little different, but, a sleep cabin is just supposed to be an accessory structure to, a principal dwelling. But like I say, the wording's quite specific and they don't match up. And there is a requirement under the Planning Act that the zoning bylaw be consistent with the policies outlined in the official plan.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? So I guess, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, through you. I just noticed in the memo provided, it mentions that these kind of things will probably be dealt with in short order. So I was just wondering if if we're required to go through this right now, or with the official plan review and zoning bylaw review. That's kind of what I read, unless I read that wrong. It's recommended that it be addressed through the ongoing comprehensive review rather than like right now in a separate way. So I'm not too sure if I'm reading that correctly, or if there's any added concerns to that.
Go ahead.
I would just say that in the meantime, then how will this policy be addressed and how will the policies be interpreted? Because we're likely, I would say, a good year away from having a new official plan and new zoning bylaw, and it could be longer than that depending on how the process goes. So that would be my only concern, is that in the meantime, we will continue to have applications that would need to be addressed under these two conflicting policies.
Conseiller Ferrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel that it's a simple solution. It's a simple fix, amend the zoning bylaw. And I think we should do it now, irrespective of the new official plan. As Madam Mayor just stated, it's at least a year away. It's an inconsistency and we just need to fix it. I don't see the problem in doing that now.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, just a question. Would council like to proceed by amending the bylaw or the official plan? So those are two separate discussions or options that council has. Which one does council wish to go with? What's worded in the bylaw or what's worded in the OP?
And that's what I was going to ask. We can have all this discussion, but at the end of my thinking is, what is it that we're looking for? What is it that you're looking for with providing us with this? To follow the official plan or to amend the zoning bylaw that it follows the official plan, or and like Conseiller Ferrand, which is something that we could do, right? But with the official plan not being set yet. So
No, well,
yes,
we
go
do
ahead.
have an official
Well,
plan.
yeah, we do, but not the other one, right?
I guess my question would be an outline of the process for each and what that involves and what's the easiest route.
May I speak to that?
Yeah.
An official plan amendment would take roughly the same amount of time as we would wind up with the new official plan. They are lengthy because although we have authority at the local level, they still do have to be vetted by Municipal Affairs and Housing. And they are bogged down right now with all of the changes that have come down from the province. So I don't know how quickly they'd be able to process. a zoning bylaw amendment would take the normal 6 to 8 weeks that any other zoning bylaw, same as any site-specific one.
So again, my question is, what are we asking council here? Are we asking them, or what are you asking them?
Well,
Are you
I'm just-
asking them to,
Choose one of
sorry,
them.
give me 1 second.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to clarify because I'm looking around and people are looking around. Are we asking council to amend the zoning bylaw to be in line with the official plan that's there currently?
Yes,
That's what we're asking. Okay.
yes. Or,
Or you want to add something?
well, I would just like to find a way to make sure that the decisions and the applications that come before either council or committee of adjustment taken, like, I don't know how to apply to policies that are different. I mean, you know, like there is, so whether or not, I mean, is the only way to do that to actually change the bylaw? Is it to make sure that, you know, when you look at a hierarchy of policies, the official plan trumps the zoning bylaw, right? So the official plan informs the zoning bylaw, which informs how we operate. So what I'm looking for is how do we make sure that we are actually following the policies that have been adopted by council?
I'm sorry, I thought Mr. Corbin was going to say
Well,
something.
she's looking at me, but I don't know if.
Okay.
I certainly don't have an expertise in this, but you're definitely following one of them, not the other one.
What do you mean? Oh,
Well,
okay, yes.
so if they're choosing one, you're following one policy, it's not like we're ignoring it, it's just that there's an inconsistency. My understanding, knowing a little bit about neighbors of mine and how it has been applied, is I believe we do allow to have a washroom, no kitchen in a cabin now. And so it's been applied that way, if I'm not mistaken, historically. So that's the application it has now. So if council wants to continue that until the official plan, that is how it's being applied. If council wishes to address that, I'm sorry, I don't have the detail, which one has the stronger restriction, the OP?
The OP has the
The OP
stronger
has, and
restriction.
then, so they're going by the bylaw. So if you'd want to amend that and say in future, we're not going to be allowing that for any new cabin, we're not going to be allowing any application that has washrooms, then until the OP is passed, then that's what you would be doing. So it'd be a couple months process to do it. I don't know if there are any files that are affected at this time, so it really is more of a paper exercise to address it. And so that's how, you know, one suggestion would be to do that and amend the bylaw, which apparently I'm told, or I'm listening, is the shorter version anyway, the zoning bylaw. And then wait until the outcome of the OP amendment, address your zoning bylaws accordingly. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you still have a question?
Yeah, I guess I was just gonna shoot out an idea that seemed simple, but it may be not possible, but what if in the zoning bylaw, we just change the wording from sleeping cabin to another word that then doesn't fall under the official plan? And then it's not inconsistent. We got this sleep cabin in the official plan that says it needs to be 2 separate lots possible, and then the zoning bylaw, we can call it a bunkie, and then you can still have your washroom in there. And that way it can move forward, and then we don't have inconsistencies, but that might be the simplest thing. Just change the sleep cabin to a different term until we get our new official plan. That might honestly.
But sorry, and I don't know much, but I'm willing to do that because it still needs to fall under the official plan. You can't just change the word, correct?
You can't change the bylaw in any way, shape, or form without going through the process
Same
under the
process.
planning
Yeah.
act.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think my concern is that whether or not, to me, there is an issue if we are making decisions that are contrary to our, to any policy, but specifically to the official plan, you know, it is the mother document for planning. And so if we are supporting applications that are clearly contrary to what's written in the official plan, to me, that's an issue just from a principle perspective. It's not whether the policy is good or bad, it's whether or not the policy is being applied as it's written.
Any other questions? Okay, so are we looking for some kind of vote of any sort? I'm just wondering because like, I mean, I can assume that I can ask council. Go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I think what we're looking for is direction
Direction?
from council as to whether to proceed with the housekeeping amendment
Okay.
as proposed, or does council, would council want to go the other way and do the official plan, which would be, so the question is bunkie with toilet, bunkie with no toilet. And where does council want, because that will which process we undertake.
Okay, so right now in front of us, correct me if I'm wrong, we have the official plan that says we have sleep cabins and they are sleep cabins, no washrooms, no kitchen. Correct. And our bylaw has sleep cabins that permits washroom-ish, let's go with that, but no kitchen. So everybody in favor of following the official plan, which will be amending the bylaw stating that it will go to sleep cabin, no bathroom, no kitchen. Correct?
That's correct.
Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that passes.
It will still have to come back here for the bylaw
Yes.
amendment once the process rolls out.
That's it on my end, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
5.2, we have Economic Development Committee, and for that, I will pass the chair to our remote counselor, Monsieur Ferrin, Councillor Ferrin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will, I think I can see most of you, so I will try to chair this remotely. I'd like to, we have one item today, which is a Economic Committee update, so I will pass the floor to Monsieur Poulain.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. We've provided council with an update on some of our key initiatives that are undertaken through the ECDEV department. Questions were asked regarding what have we spent to date, where are we at with the two key initiatives, and what are the next steps? So that has been provided to council. The former mill site redevelopment project, council awarded at our last meeting the phase 2 environmental site assessment. We are anticipating that the phase 2 ESA report to be coming back to us in July of this year. You'll note that some of the costs are yet to be determined. Some of the timelines are yet to be determined. What the engineers will find through their ESA process will determine next steps, timelines, and costs associated with developing that brownfield. Any questions on phase 2 Old Mill site? Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. When is the work on the phase 2 expected to begin? I'm sorry.
So we're currently working with the contractor to get the documents like the agreement signed. We've awarded the work. We haven't had a project kickoff meeting yet. I think that's planned for next week. So we will know once they start getting equipment on site. Things are progressing nicely as far as snow removal. Snow is melting quite quickly, so I think they'll have easier time at getting to the areas that they're going to be investigating. So that information is yet to be determined.
Thank you.
Madam
Also,
Mayor, you
may
have
Yeah, just a follow-up question, and that's kind of related to the two of them. I do notice that the phase 1 on the Corso Road property and the phase 1 on the mill site property really roughly fall within the same price range. Even though obviously the mill site property is quite a bit larger and a more intensive use. So I just would like if you could provide an explanation as to why, despite the differences in the properties, the phase 1s do come in around the same price.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so the first phase of an environmental site assessment is basically doing research. You're basically looking at the history of the site. So you're looking through historical information. And then you're interviewing key individuals that could have some intel on specifically how that site was used, potentially where certain areas were used for, whether they're underground oil or gas tanks. So it's not necessarily physical work like a phase 2 does. Is phase 2, they come in, they looked at the higher potential of contamination. They come in and they actually drill through the ground, take the soil samples and have them assessed. So the first phase is basically just historical research on the site. So that's why it doesn't matter the size of the site, it basically comes back to the same amount of work required for a small site or a large site. So
Yeah, it's the same scope no matter what.
correct.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
Councillor Gagné?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are they, for the phase 2 on the former mill site, are they actually doing test for the whole property? Or just, are some sections omitted because of
If they know,
craters or big hills or?
yeah, well, not on the terrain. It's determined not to drill holes in a certain area if they're 100% confident that there was no contamination, no possible contamination. So let's say a corner of the site was always a parking spot, they wouldn't drill there. But if there's any thought that there was underground tanks and stuff like that, that's where they're going to concentrate their.
Yeah, it's based on phase 1.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question was, we had a site visit prior for Christmas. Is there anything that came out with this site visit, the design of the project?
No, as indicated, the site design is going to be the next phase after we know the phase 2 results. And then, because if there's problematic areas, we could go back and redesign how the site's going to be used moving forward. So, and then the surveying of the site as well to have it transferred into the right ownership will be done in future stages once we know more of the results from the phase 2.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Poulin, I had just one question. If the phase 2 study finds contamination, what happens next? I mean, can we still, for example, sell the land to a developer, and it's up to them to clean it up, or do we have to clean it up before we can sell it?
I guess that would be an option for council, is to sell it as is where it is. That obviously reduces the market value of the property, but you can sell brownfield as is, and the developer buys it and is fully responsible to restore the site and remediate the site, I should say.
Okay. And if the study found no contamination, we can still sell the site as is, and any contamination that's found later, would that fall on the developer?
If I can answer that, I've been involved on that site since it was taken, abandoned by Weyerhaeuser. And one of the big issues in negotiating industrial land or brownfields is the actual liability. That's why there was a discussion with respect, or a delay with respect to the acquisition of the site in the first place, where Weyerhaeuser would not get off of the fact that they would be responsible even after a new owner. And the legal advice that we were receiving was, you don't want to do that. And so that was the big delay between Weyerhaeuser and our negotiations. Eventually, past councils, staff with anecdotal research kind of got wore down, and we ended up acquiring the site anyway, removing that condition. So we don't have any liability on Weyerhaeuser, but certainly If we know through a phase two that there is contamination and we sell it as is, where is, it would be more difficult to negotiate with a potential purchaser, knowing that they would probably not want to waive the liability on that we may incur. And so it really becomes a civil negotiation matter between a buyer and a seller at that point. And it really is hypothetical until we get a determination as to what the issues are. Now, I could tell you that that land was remediated on the surface up to about 3 feet, hence contaminated soil, non-hazardous contaminated soil that went to the landfill, our landfill in 2004-ish. And so we know what was remedied there. We also know with staff members that we have, Peter Ming was the manager of environmental for Weyerhaeuser before moving here. So we have good anecdotal information as to what contaminants or not contaminants exist. So that's why the council of the day did that move finally. But the death would be in the details, and waiting until phase two happens, that will be the concrete study, and there's no way we could have gotten around it. As council has been made aware, that is a requirement on selling industrial land in any event. Once you get into phase one, you're going to automatically trigger a phase two.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Barbo. That's very informative. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you could see me well. First of all, comment and then question is that I would like to recognize the work of staff as well for obtaining the grants for the phase two environmental assessment. You'll note that almost $170,000 of the project is being funded by partners, and I think that's a really important thing to note. The 67,000 and change that is left as the municipal contribution, that falls within the budget that we've set aside for that project for this year.
It was actually accrued from 2024.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you I think we put 75, did we not, or?
We had, because the quote came, or the proposals came in lower than budgeted. So well, if all stays accordingly, we should have a surplus, yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions on the mill site, Mr. Paulin, do you want to continue with the next item?
For the Courcelles Road housing development property, for lack of title, that's what we're calling it moving forward, because council did surplus and identify that property for housing development. We have received the preliminary report, the phase one report. Staff are currently reviewing it, and we hope to have it finalized and completed by the end of March. We also are working towards getting the request for proposals out for the phase two of that site, which we hope to have it issued within the next 2 to 3 weeks, which would bring us to, if all goes according, to award the contract in May of 2025 so that the contractor can start the work and have a phase two report completed by September of this year. So again, similar to what we're looking at the former mill site, depending on what is found on that site, is to dictate how we move forward and the potential cost to remediate that property. To my knowledge, that property was never used as a true industrial site. So the likelihood of us finding significant contamination is probably low. So once we get the report and the next phase and the remediation plan is when council will have further decisions to make this fall.
Madam Mayor?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The complexity of the mill site development had us use a third party to help in the development of the RFP, whichever. Is the same required for this site, or is this because the much smaller scope of the project, will that be handled by our economic development staff?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, we will continue on using a third party Although we have gone through it, the technical aspect of the request for proposals and the evaluation requires a certain level of knowledge that we will rely on.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair? Thank you. The $85,000 that's estimated for budget for that, does that include the cost of the development of the RFQ as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. And is there any possibilities of grants on that site for the phase two? Like, I know we've probably already run some of our sources dry on the other site, but I thought it's worth
And
asking.
unfortunately not. We did investigate funding opportunities and there are none for this particular project at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Gagné?
Thank you. So, I'm just curious, just for understanding, we did phase one. We got the report for phase one. If they find nothing and there's no items, we still need to do phase two?
Yeah,
That's not too smart.
it's an automatic.
Like,
It's an automatic and you have to follow the
If he did a phase one and there was absolutely nothing, it could not lead to a phase two. But of course, we used it as a snow dump. Right? And so that has to be disclosed in your paper exercise. So as soon as there's a tinge of a potential, they'll go to a phase two.
okay.
So if it was only used as Lang's Park and historically there's nothing else that was used other than vacant land, then probably wouldn't need it.
So we put salt and sand potentially from removing snowbanks and so on?
And that shouldn't affect anything, but once you give a paper exercise, then it triggers.
Okay. And the $85,000, was that in our budget for this year? Or-
Yes.
Oh, it was?
It was, yeah, it's all budgeted, yes.
And once phase two is done, if they actually don't find anything, then we don't need to go to phase three, I guess?
No.
You don't find anything?
Again, to Councillor Ferran's point, Mr. Chair, council can decide to sell it as is where is.
Okay,
What happens is when you have the phase two completed, any potential developer has that information.
okay,
So it helps your market value of your property and it's one less step for the developer to take.
okay.
And so I think it's a win-win for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Mr. Poulin, I believe you have a building permit report?
Yes, so we've provided council with an overview of our building permit report for 23 and 2024. This is information we wanted to provide to council so that, because often, you know, these are the types of discussions that are held at the Economic Development Committee level, and it's information that is valuable, and we often get questions. Where do we relate as far as new housing starts? And we've got a housing study, and so this will demonstrate to council that we had another very successful good year in new housing starts for 2024, with 44 new single-family dwellings constructed within our municipality. We had a couple semi-detached facilities, 10 duplex. And then you can see some of the cottages or seasonal dwellings and some of the commercial building permits that came through in 2024 and the project values as well. So I think that's really good information, and we wanted to share this with council to show you that the community continues to grow and we continue to have strong housing starts. And speaking with our chief building official, he's also looking at 2025 as being very favorable in new development, the new construction. Just underneath that table, we also wanted to bring to council's interest, the amount of interest we have for new subdivisions and new building lots. So we currently have 195 draft approved building lots. 137 of those are located within Sturgeon Falls. Of those lots, 128 are serviced and 9 are partially serviced. 7 lots are all serviced, located in Verner. We have 51 draft approved unserviced lots located in various rural areas within our community. These lots do not include potential housing development projects on municipal property. Cosud Road that we've just discussed, the Merce Court that the council recently surplused, and the former mill site also has a housing component. So in addition to what's already approved and built within our community as far as subdivisions and available lots, building lots, 195 are draft approved. So we could potentially see another 195 building lots created within our municipality. So there's no shortage of service lots and unserviced lots to help our municipality to continue to grow. So that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Poulin, for your update. I think I'm very excited, especially with the prospect of seeing the results of the phase 2 this summer. You know, there's no doubt that these are two of the most exciting projects we have with the potential for the most positive impact on this community over the next 5 or 10 years. So well done to everyone involved, past and present, and for getting it this far already. And with that, I will pass the floor back to Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5.3, Public Works Committee, and I will pass the floor to Chair Councilor Banyai.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at the first item is the 5.3.1 was the Donovan Bridge. A memo was shared with the council in regards to the details and information shared by Ms. Henning. So I would just pass it to you to see if you have anything to add to this, Ms. Henning.
I've got nothing to add to my memo, but just to touch on a few things from it, because I know that from the delegation that we had previously, there was some questions about the structure. So it has been inspected every 2 years, as per regulations. The last major rehab that was done to this structure was undertaken in 2010. At that time, bearing timbers, abutment timbers above grade, wearing surface, curbs, and deck boards were replaced at a cost of just under $45,000, which the fact that they got all of that work for that amount of money makes me a little bit sad when I look at the stuff we're working for today. The bridge has been load posted at 10 tons. Based on when I initially presented this bridge, we were looking at the report from 2022, so I've since received the report from 2024. It looks like we are going to have to reduce the load posting again, so it's now going to be posted at 5 tons, which is about the weight of a 3/4 ton pickup truck. So there's not really a whole lot that can safely be going over this bridge at this time. In terms of costs for either rehabilitation or replacement, or even just the engineering design, those are all very variable depending on things such as, what boreholes would be needed, environmental regulations, navigable waters. There's quite a few factors there. So there's some pretty big variances in the estimates that I have at this time. I'm not, unless council directs, I'm not planning on going forward with getting a consultant on board to go look at doing the design, because as we've seen, consulting costs are quite high, and I would expect that if we were to get a consultant to look at different design options for this structure, we'd be looking at $75,000 to $150,000 in additional costs. So that's not something we have been in the budget for this year. I also reached out to Hydro, they weren't even aware of this bridge, so they're not currently using it for anything. In terms of logging, there is a mining road just north of there that would allow access to like any of the logging areas there without needing to use that bridge. And obviously at this time, this bridge cannot be used for a logging truck. So if anyone has any questions or comments?
Thank you, Ms. Henning. Anybody, Conseiller Larrabee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The farmer the other day left with questions on the possibilities of other channels to access that property. But one channel that I don't think we did explore is grants. If we could look at grant for this, because now the numbers are from 600,000 to 1.5 million. So that kind of changes the if it's 600,000, it's more acceptable than 1.5 million. So if we could have time, we could defer this so we could look for grant, federal grant, and even provincial. We see the minister mostly on like every delegation. We try to get a delegation with the Minister of MTO, so maybe we could get some help with this because it's in the farming industry, and farming is vital to our existence. So I think we should support every channel we can. So if I'm asking for council to agree to defer this until we could get some feedback from we've asked to speak with the MTO minister at the end of the month. So maybe that's one thing we could tag on if we do get accepted.
Go ahead.
Well, just to clarify, the MTO wouldn't be involved in this as it's a local road. So MTO would only want to support us in terms of our jurisdiction on programs that they have, which would be provincial roads, highways, or connecting links. Whether there are other grants, there very well may be. Councillor Larrabee, we certainly are aware of the grants that are available, and it would then come back to council as to a prioritization of where you want to get those where the applications would be, and certainly this is near and dear to yourself and others. And, there are other grants that, we are applying for or talking to Infrastructure Ontario about water in Verner and the like, and other possible grants. We have stable funding grants that we currently apply on a regular basis as part of our budgeting, either in sewer and water or in public works. But certainly that doesn't preclude council from deferring the idea for us to continue looking. That certainly is always a possibility. The issue, as I understand it, is the bridge as it is now is load posted to 10,000 or 10 tons per axle, and the potential would be that it could be reduced in its posting to 5,000, right?
Yeah, that the report recommends that it be
Yeah, so the
reduced.
report goes to 5,000. So at the end of the day, this is a 5,000 per axle bridge. And whether we delay it or not, this is what it is, unless council agrees to spend money on it to get it to a higher weight classification.
Monsieur Barbeau. Conseiller Larrabee.
Yeah, follow up on this. Now it's going to be load posted 5,000.
Right.
So if for some reason a person that would go with 30 or 40,000, something would happen, the bridge would collapse. That would not be the responsibility of the municipality because it's posted.
That's right.
Okay, so at this time, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I'm just saying that that's the possibility that we could face. And so you know, to, it says, at first report we had, it says it gives us 2 years to make some adjustment to that bridge. So if we could have a little bit of time, we could search for another possibility. And one of them would be to put a road in a different location. You know, right now we're looking at one and we're, you know,
I don't know about the 2 years.
The first report was in 2022. and
So
it
that's 2 years.
indicated-
So now we're into 2024, so I don't think it's 2 years anymore. I think
No, it's indicating it now.
it's now. So that 2 years is not 2 years, it's now. So right now, we are going to be posting it regardless of council's decision. The road authority will be posting it to 5 tons. All right?
okay.
So that's a fact. As for your, I like to be the local historian here. I know Mr. Pellerin would remember, what was the road, what the heck was the road where Fisher Wavy collapsed off of Sedignac, yeah. And so, yes, we weren't liable to Fisher Wavy. We sued Fisher Wavy. There was a settlement for wrecking that bridge, but we were not liable. It was Fisher Wavy who was liable for not following posted signs, so.
All right. So what I'm asking council, if it's possible, we delay this decision until we find.
I'll go around for any questions first, and then I will request if we want to defer the later time after.
Okay, thank you.
So, Madame Mayor.
No, I'd like Councillor Ferrand to go first, please.
Okay, Conseiller Ferrand? Oh, we can't hear you.
Mute.
Apologies. I'd like to know more about our legal position with this. And do we as a municipality have any legal obligation to continue maintaining this bridge and giving property owners access to their land, whether there's a dwelling on any of them or not? And more specifically, could we be liable for the loss in value that these landowners will suffer if we close the bridge? So I'd really like a clarification on our legal position. And just also, Mr. Barbeau, I'm just wondering, in your very long tenure as CAO, do you remember if the municipality has ever been in a similar position where closing a road would have landlocked some landowners, and whether we have ever been faced with a situation like this?
So was that manure or tenure? So there were 3 questions. The first question, and Melanie will correct me if I'm wrong, but by bylaw, the municipality under the act has the authority to, by bylaw, close a travel portion of a road. So that by bylaw is your authority, and because you have that authority, you would not be liable per se, theoretically, for that. Would there be any liability for loss of income? The conversation was had with our council, and his belief is no. That doesn't preclude anybody, obviously. Civil courts are not, you know, if you file a claim, you have to defend it. So that doesn't preclude anybody from filing a claim. But that being said, there is no liability on our part if we properly close it. We had a more detailed discussion, if I may, I might stop or might answer a couple of thoughts before they're asked. But the structure, though it's a closed road, remains ours, and so we would probably have a certain duty of care in addition to closing it, to probably barricading it in order to ensure that we've taken the proper precautions to not, if it's closed, to not have anybody break through and fall into the river. There might be some liability there, given it is our structure and the fact that we're a municipality, deepest pockets, you know. So if we were to close it, we would probably be barricading it for non-use, unless there was an agreement that was reached with the landowners to transfer the asset to them for $1 or for whatever that is negotiated. And then the asset would no longer be ours. Then we wouldn't have to barricade it. But if the asset, if the road is closed and it's barricaded, then really there's no real liability to us. With respect to your question, in my long tenure, but I think Melanie has been there for the both of them. I think there might be even both in your area. One was on Millerin Road, at the end of Millerin Road. There was a dispute between two neighboring tenants on a boundary road, and it was officially a road that passed through at the end of Millerin and continued on. We closed it by bylaw in order to eliminate, because people were telling us we need to maintain it, and it was a road leading to nowhere. So we did close it. The second one is when you do the little S turn from Levac Road to Leclerc Road. Once you turn left and you're heading south before, there was a laneway and a gated laneway there. So you're heading due south, and if you continued on, you'd end up in the Vev River all the way in. That too was closed by bylaw in order to rectify some issues. I believe the individual was Mr. Beaudry, if I'm not mistaken. So in that case, so it has happened in 2 occasions within about the last 15 years. The Beaudry one was probably 7-8 years ago, and the other one was maybe 10. I hope those answers your questions, Councillor Fab.
Yes, thank you. Also, the memo mentions that, further repairs could be required in the next 10 years, I think, and possibly the bridge requiring full replacement in, say, 20 years. Do we have any idea, any estimates of what the cost of repairs could be in 10 years' time, and what the cost of a full replacement in 20 years' time would be? I know this is it's a difficult question, but I feel like if repairing the bridge now means that we're on the hook for more repairs in 10 years and a replacement in 20 years, maybe we have to also consider, as one of the possibilities, maybe replacing it now with if we decide that we don't want to landlock these landowners. So I feel we have to look a little bit further to really make a decision on this.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, I would expect in the next 10 years, cost for repairs to be anywhere from probably $150,000 to $1 million, depending on how much needs to be done. The structure is, we believe, in the 80 years old range, which is quite old for a structure. In terms of replacement, when we got to that, I mean, it's hard to say based on, how numbers are going to look at that time, but this is one of the largest spans in our municipality. So I would think that you would be looking at a minimum of probably $5 million to replace, if not more. So they're quite large numbers that we'd be spending over those years. And as I said before, like, we would need a structural engineer to do some real analysis on what we wanted done if we were going to go that way and get some real good numbers on how that would look. But none of the numbers are small, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Saint-Louis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Understand, so I was contacted over the weekend in regards to this, and I understand the time sensitivity of this. However, going back to the last meeting where we had the delegation, the presentation, again, knowing that it is time sensitive, but I think we need to maybe give the farmers an opportunity, because they had talked about approaching the agriculture committees, not ours, but even provincial committees or stuff like that, so that they can look at maybe getting some assistance from the provincial government or the federal government. If they're able to, great, then, you know, they can move forward about going forward and getting that money. However, again, it is time sensitive, and if it's something that they want to do or they want to proceed or put into place, then I think we should give them the opportunity to do so, but they need to understand this needs to be done within the next weeks, months, because we all know how things can drag with the provincial or federal government, right?
Conseiller Padrin.
Monsieur Gagné, je suis d'accord avec ce qu'on dit comme c'est là. Ça donnerait une chance à M. Legault et puis les fermiers autour de peut-être avoir des possibilités de peut-être trouver un ingénieur, trouver une ferme. Ils ont toutes sortes de contacts. On ne devrait pas se presser, là. C'est pas comme le pont, il va tomber demain matin. On a réduit la chose. Au moins, ils peuvent se rendre à leur terrain. J'espère qu'on ne fermera pas la route demain matin. Merci.
OK. Conseiller Larrabee.
Thank you. I had mentioned it before at different councils sitting around the table. At the end of the month, we're going to OGRA, Ontario Good Roads Association, and I had mentioned that the engineers we should support that the engineer goes also if they want to go. Because there's all kinds of companies out there that want to sell their product, and there's a bridge that they came out with, and I'll get some information on that bridge. It's called the Acro Bridge, and it's very, they come in very simple, quick bag, you know, so, and that's the new generation. They even got companies out there that do wooden structure. They last longer than concrete. So there's a pile of companies out there that could offer some products. So if we, like I said, we could delay this a little bit so we could have all the information, give the farmers the time to look into it, and then we bring it back to the table with all the information, and then we could move on.
I just want to make a comment. We're not closing the bridge this year, okay? It's been inspected. It's going to be downgraded to 5 tons.
Yeah.
So the weight limit on the bridge will be there. I don't think we need to make a decision in the next few months. I don't think that was the recommendation to actually close the bridge immediately. It's been shared. The information has been shared to us in regards to. Last inspection has put strict requirements on the weight limit on the bridge. But eventually we do need to make a decision to what we're going to do. And we want to actually finance the replacement of the bridge eventually, which might not be regardless of if we decide to do work, but is that something that we even want to look at? And I'll make my final comments once everybody has done theirs, because I have some good comments that are coming up. So go ahead, Madam Mayor.
That's exciting. First, I have a couple of questions. So in 2010, there was some major work done. At that time, what was the load restriction on the bridge, like after that major work was completed?
I'm not sure when the load restriction changed to what it's currently at, but I would imagine that after that work was done, that's when it was posted to what it currently is.
To the 10?
To the 10.
Okay, thank you. There has been a suggestion that there is a possibility of providing access, land access through Ayotte Road. Is there, I see Ayotte Road comes off, is it 839?
5:30.
539, sorry, 805, 539. Is there a municipally owned road allowance that would allow us to create access through Ayotte Road?
Not to my knowledge.
Was never registered. No,
Okay, thank you.
it's an oath.
My position on the subject, I appreciated Councillor Ferran's comments about illegal liability, and what our legal responsibilities are. But I also do have concerns about the ethical responsibilities in that these are property owners and residents that have always had access to these properties. The decision to close the bridge would have significant financial impacts for those families, some of whom have been farming and living in that area for several generations. And even the option of transferring an asset that clearly has severe structural limitations to private property owners who would then become responsible for the liability and the upkeep and maintenance of that would be severely financially restricting to them too. And I think I'm convinced that there has to be a creative solution that falls somewhere between the shut it down and the spend $1.5 to $5 million. And so I was thinking, because we did have a delegation in Roma with the Associate Minister of Forestry, and we know in that area Gibbons Road is an MNR road, which has a different requirement because of the access that bridge could, if it were in good condition, provide to resource areas. Is there, and I'm just thinking out loud on how we can creatively solve the problem. Is there a possibility that we approach MNR to take the road? I did a little bit of research myself, and I spoke to some people in the know. And my understanding is that on forestry roads, the engineering requirements for bridges and structures to provide access is much different than what the engineering requirements of a municipal road are. And I've been told that a bridge of that span that was on a MNR road or classed as a forestry road, a total replacement could be in the range of 500,000 because they don't require rails and they don't require all kinds of other things. So like, I'm just trying to think of ways that we can solve this problem that would serve the long-term needs of the residents, as well as provide a little financial relief, because obviously at the numbers for us to have it as a municipal bridge, it's really hard to spend that kind of money. But I'm just wondering whether there are other solutions like that. Like, is there a possibility of approaching MNR? Is there, what is the difference between a forestry bridge or a MNR road bridge and a municipal bridge? And are those some options that we could look at?
Go ahead, Mr. Barbeau.
So I guess, historically, I'm seeing that we had this on our budget, and there was a lot of cost, and so we didn't put it on our budget. And we talked about that. Therefore, what are we doing with this? And there's been really good discussion with respect to council's wish to keep it or not to keep it, or certainly not make a decision now. So I guess what I'm hearing is, as the chair has indicated, there really isn't any change to the fact that the bridge exists now, that after a bridge inspection, it's going to be, its load posting is going to be reduced, and that will happen. And if council seems to be wanting to not make a decision to close it right away, then certainly we'll provide, to the degree that we can, look at all of the options that were explored, funding other ministries. I don't want to be the one to go long shot, but long shots pay off. So, obviously we'll look at that. So at this point, I think that your point, Mr. Chair, about the fact that, we're not going to make any imminent decision on closing it right now, and we'll continue status quo. And there you have it.
Councillor Pette.
A very quick one. Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead, Conseiller Fagan.
Just quickly, at the delegation, the landowners requested to see the engineering report. Is that something we can disclose to them?
I believe that any report that we have, unless there are FOI restrictions on it, would be a public document. So if council directs us to show them that report, I suppose legally we would show them the report. Otherwise, they would file an FOI request and we would provide it through the Freedom of Information.
Then, and in that case, I would suggest that we simply direct you to disclose the report. I think they're entitled to see it, and
Yep.
Yep.
That's,
You
that
probably
doesn't
want to
make a
show of
resolution.
hands. Well,
Just a show of hands by council if we want to share the report with the delegation as requested. Okay, so that's good. Is that good?
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. Any other questions or comments? Before I make my final comments, Councilor Resto.
I don't even know if I want to make this comment, but for you, Mr. Chair, I'd request caution, I guess, for those who are using the bridge. I know we're going to post it, but I've heard a lot from the delegation, lots of discussion about logging, about agriculture. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought I heard someone say that with the new posting, that's about a pickup truck. So weight, I don't know vehicles very well, barely drive my own car. But just for those people to be aware of what's posted for safety, and I'm just, it's in my head right now, it's not processing how people are doing agriculture and logging on a bridge that only can sustain the weight of a pickup truck. So I don't know what the summer is going to look like, and we talk about lost income or these type things. So I don't know if there's any alternatives. I'm not suggesting anything that these individuals are currently doing to get their goods across the river, but obviously the bridge isn't going to be an option for the summer until we revisit this again and start to look at some options for potential repairs or whatnot. But as it is right now, if it's a pickup truck that's going across, I just, respectfully suggest caution to those who are using it to not overdo it. And I'm not sure in my mind, again, repeating myself, but I don't know how logging or agriculture activities are going to happen on a bridge that's posted for 5 tons. So I just wanted to share that comment. Not as good as your good comments that are coming, but a comment to share.
Thank you, Councilor Resto. So it was a bit in the same lines that I find it sad that through amalgamation, the government isn't funding us to replace infrastructure that's been put there 60 years ago. And I feel for the residents that are losing the full access and utility of that bridge. It's not fair, but at the same time, as a municipality, we don't have the funding that wherever they found it before, whether it's through M&R, through Ministry of Transportation, to be able to access that river across for the farming and the logging and so on. It is sad. It'd be nice for us to be able just to apply and says, well, since amalgamation, we have that bridge and now it's up for repair and replacement. So just give us the money so that we can do it. We don't have that flexibility. We can apply for it, but we all know we have different priorities where we actually need to put, like example, bringing the water to Verner, which is one. The last comment is I think we need to look at other options besides just saying, well, that bridge has been there for 80 years or 60 years and we need to replace it. The Arana mine has a road up there, and I think through all of the residents in that area, maybe looking at building a road, talking at the logging company that's got the cutting rights up there, and to see if they can have M&R grants or funding to actually build a road for you guys to be able to access it there. I know it's a longer way to cross to get to your property, but at least it's a long-term solution. I don't think spending $5 million in 10 or 15 or 20 years from now to replace that full bridge, unless somebody has a good contact with M&R or MTO that can actually get that money, but everybody's asking for money and the cost is always going up every year. So, and even the Ayut Road, if there's an option, I look, there used to be, you can see there's an old road that access the first property of that field. Maybe that's an option. But we also need help from the residents to kind of think outside the box and try to find functional solution and maybe long-term financial good solution to be able to do that. So at that, I think, or Ms. Henning, can you correct me? Now that the inspection has been made in 2024, which we just got the report, the next one would be in 2026.
Correct.
So the load bearing on the bridge will be lowered now that we've been advised. So technically, we have until the end of 2026 or until we get the next report.
No, this report does indicate that the load needs to be reduced and the abutments need to be replaced.
Okay.
So waiting, I would not suggest looking at this report that we should be waiting until 2026 to do anything in just load posting.
Okay, so how long can we actually keep accessing the bridge until we need to make a decision to either we close full access to it or not?
Well, like I said, we would need a full, structural report to make those types of determinations, but the report that I have suggests that we don't want to be, delaying this decision, so. And I'll leave that to council.
Okay. So does any councilors have any recommendation or any suggestions? Councilor Gabi?
My request was push it back so we could find other means, like you were saying, other ways. Or maybe grants from the federal government. We have companies we're going to see at the end of the month that have all kinds of options of bridge, so that's exactly what they specialize in. It's OGRA, Ontario Good Roads. You're gonna have all kinds of, so if we go there with the length of the bridge, the span, and the approach. Well, speaking about the approach, I remember a few years ago, in the springtime, it was identified to me that water's running into the approach. So I identified it to the person in charge of MTO at the time, or not MTO, but Public Works. I said, there's a problem, right? Water, the road is lower than the ditch, so water stays. It was fixed in the fall, late fall. So all that summer, it rained and rained, it wasn't done. So now we're faced with a problem of the approach, but actually, if it would have been taken care of better, we wouldn't probably be facing with a solution like this. I drive around and I see roads that are full of gravel, and that's a no-no. Gravel got to be removed on the bridge in the springtime. They put sand on it in the winter, but in the spring, you have to sweep it, you have to wash it. So it doesn't matter.
Consider, I'm just talking about the Donovan Bridge there. Like, is there any recommendation or ideas?
I just felt it needed to be said.
Okay. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
I mean, I would like us to explore some of the options through M&R, and the way I'm thinking about it is that, is it true that a forestry bridge has a much different?
That's nothing I've ever heard before, but I'm not very familiar with forestry roads, so.
Okay, and the bridges. I just maybe like to do a bit of research on that, because like the way I'm thinking about it is, if the information that I've received is accurate and that bridge could be replaced to M&R standards at 400 or 500,000, if we invest that kind of money and then do a trend, you know what I mean? There's just perhaps ways.
Yeah, I would note too, though, even if there are lower standards, they wouldn't be lower standards for the weight of the bridge. So the abutments, the span, the dewatering, all of those things that are really your big cost items are what you're going to have regardless of which standard you're using. So while there might be some savings, I wouldn't imagine that you would have a large savings if you were building a bridge to that standard versus.
So I'll recommend, go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies through you, Mr. Chair. So again, I'll reiterate what I said a little bit earlier. I think it's definitely something that we should attempt to look at to try to get different funding, but to add also, if this is time sensitive and we have to close the bridge, then we close the bridge. It doesn't mean we permanently need to close the bridge. So it doesn't mean that we stop looking. It doesn't mean that we don't stop looking for a fix It's unfortunate, and if some of the farmers in the agriculture loses out on the summer, and I get that and I understand that, but for their own safety, we have to do it, and not this year, but I mean, or even if it is this year and it goes down to 5 tons, and they can only come across with a pickup truck, well, they can't pull a trailer with all the hay or all the logs or whatnot. I understand that. However, if we need to close the bridge, it doesn't mean that we need to stop looking to fix that bridge. It doesn't mean that we have to stop looking to get the MNR, to get somebody else, or I like your idea, and I'm looking at the map right now, from a certain section on Arena Mines to some of where they're farming is actually closer than from 539 to Denonville Bridge. I just think that, for me, it's the safety of the individuals that is the priority. And I mean, we'll go from there.
So I think everybody's saying the same thing, a variety of different options. So the idea was, if we weren't needing the bridge, to close it permanently. There's not an appetite for that. There's an appetite to your point, Councillor St. Louis. We load posted to 5, but at the end of the day, and I don't think it's a council decision, it'll be the road authority that will determine whether it is safe or not based on the information they have. And our public works is the road authority, and they would be having a look at that. They're not going to be doing it for anything, but if there is an abutment issue where we feel there's going to be a problem, we'll probably do that, but that's certainly not our intent at this time. Our intent is to try and assist the landowners on the other side while following the various options. So I think no offense, but the discussion is pretty much all similar, and the council's wish is the same.
Okay. Any last comments? Good. Okay, so we'll move on to the other item is 5.3.2, which is a discussion of the current winter service levels for Snowbank. And I think, Madam Mayor, you're the one that submitted the request, right?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much through you, Mr. Chair. I did submit this, we've had, especially later in the winter, some pretty heavy snowfalls back to back to back to back. I do want to say that in submitting this is not a commentary on the work done by our public works crews, because they have done an excellent job this year in responding to the weather events and clearing what they do and maintaining the service levels that we have. That being said, the snowbanks have been very high, not just on our major routes, John, and I'm specifically talking about in our urban settlement areas. But quite high, not just on the major routes, but on some of the side streets as well. And I think when in the approach to having a discussion about service levels, I look at the policies that we're adopting or looking at adopting as far as housing intensification and densification within our urban cores. So increasing residential units on small urban building lots, and with every residential unit we create the need for parking spaces, and with every parking space that's created on a small residential lot, there becomes less storage space for the residents to put their winter snow. So at some point, we kind of reach a critical mass where the sight lines are impacted, resident safety is impacted. And so the discussion I wanted to have was, if those are the policies that we have moving forward, and I think we all agree that housing needs to be created, especially within our serviced urban areas, how do we adjust our service standards in order to meet the needs of the changing landscape? So that's kind of, that was the kind of reasoning or thought process behind it, because as we move further and further down this, where we can have up to 3 residential units on a R1 property. Where do people put their snow?
So
Go ahead, Ms. Annie.
for you, in building design, that's something that should be accounted for. Areas for snow storage. I know even this afternoon I was looking at a plan and the comment was there's not enough snow storage for building. And it is up to property owners. And this isn't just a West Nipissing thing, this is everywhere. I mean, snow removal, we actually do quite a bit of snow removal compared to other much larger cities even. I was in Sault Ste. Marie this winter, and my goodness, getting out of any road there was a lot of fun. So, I mean, the solution for this really could, like, you know, hire more people, have another crew that would be, you know, you'd have a night shift and a day shift and doing removal, like in terms of that. But aside from that, like, I don't really see with the staff that we have doing more than we're currently doing. Because if they're not out plowing, they're doing removals. That's like all winter long, that's what they're doing.
And I wanted to make it clear, like, I understand that we are at, like, our staff works at full capacity, and, right, you know.
So it certainly is a budgetary issue. And so if council's wish is to have us do an analysis, obviously, you know, there are certain places, and we've had certain complaints where, I respect the issue where small lots, and I get that, but we have about 7,500 households. And so we want to be very careful on how we implement a policy and what the warrants are for that. And so we'd have to do a lot more digging for council in order to determine what that service would be and how mobilized our crews would be. As indicated right now for the public's consumption, is our crews are deployed at 4 a.m. for the most part after a snowstorm, and they're allowed to work a specific amount of time as per MTO, and we do a very good job clearing those our routes on a fairly timely basis over 2,000 square kilometers. Once it doesn't snow, what you see in the mayor, I believe, is part of a snow squad, which is our acronym where we show where we're going, and the crews then talk about where they're going to be doing remedial work. And we've been, as Ms. Henning indicated, way better than any municipality I'm aware of with respect to removing snowbanks in our commercial zones, in our accessible zones. Back in the day as well, I don't know if I followed it as much, but we used to also, where there was skidoo routes, also level off, and that used to be Nipissing Street, I believe. And so there used to be that. But, and I know Pace-Bav gets done as well in Verner, but so to do the residential areas and to commit to a level of service policy is fraught with risk, financial risk, and the ability to carry it out or not carry it out. But so if council wants us to delve into that a little bit more, we would make that a request, a budgetary request for 2026. Because that's really what it would be. It'd be a whole new crew.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
When, and this may be a question for whoever wants to answer it, but when we're looking at development or permitting for additional residential units, parking is accounted for in that, and whether there would be adequate snow storage.
Yes, and that's why, like, as per our entrance policies, we only allow entrances to be certain widths, right? Because that gives you the snow storage on your lawns. And that's the purpose of that. So you look at areas where, like, I used to live in a row house in Ottawa that was a 5-unit and had driveways and very narrow lawns, but those lawns were, but it was where your snow storage went. So that's how it's looked at, and that's why the driveways aren't permitted to be, you know, your whole width, because then you don't have that snow storage and drainage and other things. But
I would imagine that's hard to enforce, though. I'm going to assume that some people widen their driveways without going through the proper permitting and approvals processes.
I'm sure that happens.
Like I say, I just, I wanted to identify just from a policy perspective, like, what do we do?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would be interested in knowing what it costs for snow removal, because I know it's not the same work at all than just going out and plowing the streets. So when you're doing John and Nipissing, where the schools are, or Michaud, where the schools are, you have an idea of what the total cost of deploying your men for night shift?
So the total cost to deploy, in terms of human resources and all of that, it would be no different than if when they're deploying just to plow, right? Because it's the same crews that are going out. The only difference would be that we do rent the blower. We rent that for 3 months from December 15th to March 15th, and that costs approximately $30,000 per year to rent that piece of equipment.
If I may, is there a price increase every time, like if you use it or if for 3 months, 24 hours a day
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much, that's the price for those.
for
3
the
months.
snow blower? So that would not be an increase. But like I was explaining before, is you got to plan when you pick up. So if they're planning and if they're calling for another snowstorm, you don't want to run into overtime. So, those are all factors. So like CEO said, you need to have a new crew completely.
We're fully deployed right now.
Yeah.
So you saying we,
Thank you. So, Councilor, we touched on it. So what we're talking about when they start at 4 o'clock, that does not include overtime. They work 4 till noon.
No, that's part of our collective agreement.
Okay.
There's a bit of a premium, but,
thank you. Any other questions? Comments? I do have a question, even though I worked at the time with Monsieur Lemion, but I've noticed in some areas that I did get some phone calls and complaints. Do we have anything in our bylaw in regards to people putting their snow on the snowbank? Is there anything in the
Their snow,
bylaw or?
On the,
Well, let's say there's a eight apartment building and they've got no room to put their snow, but they put it on the side of the road.
yes, if they're obstructing the sightlines of the road, then yes, we do send bylaw when they're putting their snow on the road.
Not on the road, I mean, like they're piling up the snowbank.
Like at their own entrance
Yeah.
or at their own entrance,
At their
that's
own
their own
entrance.
responsibility. If they don't have sight lines coming out of their own driveway, then that's the property owner's responsibility.
Okay.
So if they were
technically-
piling at an intersection and blocking sight lines to an intersection, then yes, that would be a violation. But if they were piling it at their own edges of their own driveway, then
Okay.
that would be the property owner's.
Okay, so technically, the only complaints we should be getting would be sight line at an intersection, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. So, Madam Mayor, any recommendation? Do you want to get costing or?
I mean, it's up to council. Just looking for some advice, and really, as we increase density, the problem will increase. And even with the permitting process and the approvals, we'll, I just don't know if there's a way to manage. I guess I'm looking for solutions.
well, I mean, I guess the solution is where warranted and where council wants to raise a level of service, to provide that level of service. So what we would do is potentially make an analysis of where that could additional level of service come into play, what the volume of it, and then we'd be able to cost it with respect to how much additional resources that we need. I could always say no to everything and tell you that it's going to be an interesting conversation, though, if we say yes to somebody, I don't know, just pick one, Church Street, and then no to somebody that doesn't meet the warrant that's close on Arthur Street, and what that warrant is. And it could be opening up a can of worms with respect to needing to start removing the snow that we're, historically pushing from the travel portion to our road allowance. So it really is our road allowance. It's not their property, it's our property. I'd also digress to tell you that we're kind of fortunate in Northern Ontario, where in most other communities, residents are required to actually shovel the sidewalks. In Toronto, you're required to actually shovel your sidewalks on Yonge Street and that kind of thing. That is a legal requirement. You're required to take away the snowbank and that kind of thing. So we do provide quite a bit more service just with a lot more snow here than many municipalities. But if council wishes, we can give you a report to bring back at budget. And provide you with a bit of an analysis on that, and it would come with a budgetary request at that point, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I just provide my comments on that. I wouldn't really be in favor of asking for that report, because to me, when I go walking in town, like if I notice a huge snowbank, it seems like the next time I walk by, it is clear. Like our municipal staff do a good job on those really busy areas, and it seems like they have the know-how when they're going around. If something's just too out of this, like too, you can't see at all, they'll kind of remove it, or they'll skim it down, or like homeowners should kind of take care of that. So I don't really think it's something that we should direct staff to do it. And then next thing you know, we had big snow, and then we had this nice weather for 2 weeks. Now the problem, right? Like by the time it was on the agenda as a request, now it's completely not a problem. So sometimes this could only be a couple weeks a year, if that, right? So I don't really like the idea of having that in our budget as a line item for an increase.
Okay, so show of hand who wants a financial report to be brought back at the next budget for snow bank removal. Seeing 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. So I think it's unanimous. No need. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
I thank you very much for the report and the information and discussion. We appreciate it. At this point, it is 8 o'clock, so we will take our recess. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Gagné, Paveray.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Paveray. Approximately 8 p.m., a motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you and welcome back. We are still in committee of the whole. We have finished our Public Works Committee and we now move on to Community Services 5.4. I will pass the floor to Councilor Navarro.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For item 5.4.1, the walking trail along LaBrusse Road, I'll pass it over to Councilor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A while back, I was contacted by a resident on LaBrusse Road. Well, as a matter of fact, last summer, there was a lot of dust and the speed was fast. And so there's gravel pits in the back, and there's 5 gravel pits operating in the back. And so there's a lot of heavy traffic and it becomes like a safety issue. So we did put a sign, municipality went and put a speed limit sign on it, tried to reduce the speed because it's kind of scary, especially if you're walking and you have a big truck running beside you. It's very, very scary for them. So now the request that they ask is if we could look into building a trail beside the road, like a little bit off the road. And I think there is a diagram here that shows it. So yeah, if we could do that for them, they would be a lot safer for their nature walk. So at this time, I would like just to ask the staff to give us a cost of doing the walking trail on this, and it's hydro, it's power line, so it's hydro property. Also to get permission from hydro to
Thank you.
and I was also told that Mr. Seri, Marc Seri, is willing to help out on this issue. So if we could get a price, and then we could work out also with the contractors in the area, because like I said, they got 5 pits, so they got dozers and whatnot.
Thanks for the added information. I saw Mr. Barlow.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly if the request is for us to get a little bit more information, we can. I think the memo also indicates, that this is a forest road, so in law, we don't have a 66-foot road allowance, so that those roads are actually on private property, and so we would have to obtain from Hydro One, some permits, but also we would need to negotiate or get permission from landowners as well on those roads. So it wouldn't be, that simple. The other issue too, and there's a quote of 33,000. That was just a very fast quote on Granular A. I think that there's a lot more money to be expended on this. In my opinion, speaking with the director and the staff of Public Works, more in the area of about 150,000, subject to confirmation. But we don't know what the topography is, what the land base is, whether we're going into areas that are, are swampy. I know I grew up around the corner, just on the Gannett Road, so that used to be my uncle's place. But I think that the appropriate way of doing it mid-year like this would be to have it as a budget request for community services. That would be my recommendation, that if council wishes to consider this, it is enough of an asset. We go through enough time with council trying to find projects. And if this is a project near your heart, then certainly this is something that we would cost appropriately and fund appropriately.
Thank you. And I'd like to open up the floor to any questions or comments. And I see Councillor Ferrand. You're on mute, sorry. There you go. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologies again. I'm just wondering if we could approach the gravel pits to see if they could donate the aggregate. Since, we'd be doing this to protect the public from the vehicle traffic, maybe there'd be an opportunity for them to give back to the community at very little cost to them.
Thank you. Councillor Resto.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I like the idea. my idea is probably going to be in the other end of our businesses that could impact negatively those businesses. But when I hear Councillor Larrabee sharing some of the challenges that are happening on this road with vehicles and speed and that type of stuff and related to safety, I always fall back to the question in the very short term, why can't we look at enforcement along? We have police services here. I'm sure especially for businesses, they wouldn't want to be hit with whatever it is, speeding tickets or whatever it is, and impacting their insurance and that type of stuff. So I always fall back to that when I hear about even in the urban areas when there's high speeds on roads, get out there and enforce. That's what we're paying for, is to have police support within the community. And if it is something where it can't, I'm not saying that it is, I don't know, I haven't been to the area to see these vehicles in action, but if it is something where residents are feeling like it's a speed issue and it turns into a safety issue, why can't we just put a request in to our police services to say, can you get out there? And I'm sure after a ticket or two for a business, the owner is going to say, guys, slow it down and keep it safe there, as at least a short-term measure. I'm not saying I'm against the idea of this, but we can start working on this tomorrow if we put that request in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Conseiller Pellerin.
It's hard to consider that request because if this goes through, there's going to be a ton of other requests coming in. I know on our road, on Eugene Road, I've got stopped many times by people that used to walk for the last 20 years. And now since they narrowed the road, it's become a very dangerous road to walk on. And if we go down that road, I can't see it. I can't see this. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Pellerin. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you. I like the idea of the trails, but I think right now we need to stick to the term plan and some other larger projects we've previously voted on. I just don't think right now is the right time to add more infrastructure into the mix. But down the road, I think it's a good idea. And maybe in the meantime, they could walk the Ski-Doo trail or the ATV trail, if that's an option. I'm not sure.
They're not in the area there.
Doesn't it go from La Brosse to 64? Yes, thank you. It's an option. Thanks.
Anybody else? Conseiller Gagné.
Bit at the same line as Conseiller Pellerin, maybe not as stiff, but I think residents could at least do the legwork and contact the gravel pit owners and also the homeowners for right of way on their private property, at least to do that legwork. And then maybe at that time, and I do agree with Councillor Nicol that like building new trails is not a priority. We have roads and water to bring and other projects that are more priority than that. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. See, none, I'll just give my comments there. I'm on this road quite a bit for my everyday employment, and I actually have never once seen another car while I'm on that road during the summer. I get it. There may be some time where there's some heavy traffic, but I do not believe that this road in particular would require a complete separate trail for pedestrians. I've also never seen a work truck there or anything. I do understand it must be a real concern, but as Councillor Pellerin mentioned, it's every road would request this at that point. So I would just like to suggest as well to the homeowners who maybe made the request, like there are a lot of long roads off of La Brosse and long driveways, like it's quite of a trek alone to walk that or make some trails within their own properties, and they're going to have some good enjoyment there. But that's just my comment. So I'll just put it to a vote as to who would like to obtain more information or to put this on the 2026 budget at the end of 2025. So who would be in favor of seeing this as a budget item in 2025, at the end of 2025? Okay, so we'll move on to number 5.4.2, which is the Cache Bay basketball court. So we received a memo with some information. I would just like to pass that over to Monsieur Poulin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, we did look at providing council with an option to have a paved area where we could host a basketball court in Cache Bay. What you see in front of you is a budget that we've estimated for the cost of creating this basketball court. The location would be in behind the Cache Bay Community Center. So we've got some aerial shots of the area. So next to it is the splash park. Next to the splash park is the playground. Where you see the orange line delineated in front of the vehicles on the second picture at the bottom, we would put some concrete pillars or barricades to prevent vehicles from going close to the splash park, close to the playground, and also close to the basketball court, so that anyone playing can play in a safe manner. So the total cost for the basketball court is estimated to be close to $120,000. And again, as noted, there's no lighting included, there's no fencing included, and no geotechnical investigation. So what we're basically doing is we're removing, I guess, 2 feet 6 inches of existing soil, replacing it by gravel, compacting it, and paving over top of that. Again, we're not 100% sure what we have currently. Without a geotechnical investigation, we wouldn't be able to know that. And that is our estimate and option provided to council on this project.
Thank you very much for the added information. I'd like to floor for questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So does the geotechnical investigation, is that a requirement that you have to do? Just knowing that what's there right now is just broken down asphalt that's there since we were kids. There's never been anything else that I know of since 1972, 73, since we started going to school there. So I know there's been no other, anything else built on top of that area. And I know that there's still some of the old asphalt that is still there, but all broken down and cracked and grass growing through and stuff.
Through you, Mr. Chair, a geotechnical investigation is not a requirement. It's generally something we do before we go ahead and spend money on a project like this, just to be sure that it's not all clay and we do this and then a couple of years from now, everything's heated and all the pavement's cracked and, you know, it's unsafe to play. So we would technically do that, but council did express their request to do something that could basically be financially easier option to consider than having a full concrete pad and doing a full investigation with proper drainage and all that. So this is the bare bones. What we would recommend would be in the vicinity of $120,000.
Thank you. Councilor Russell.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess I'm just kind of brainstorming out loud, and I see the information we have here and it's getting late, I can't think of the word I want to use, but the outline of the whole area. And I'm thinking of different areas like schools in Sturgeon Falls, and I know that's where a lot of the kids here go to play basketball, and they have nets. And just asking the question, do we need a full-size court in Cache Bay? Like, I'm just thinking when I was a kid, I don't think we'd play a full 50-foot court where you have how many people you need for this, but I'm just thinking of cost. And I'm thinking of other areas relative to other communities in West Nipissing. Do we need, and I'm looking at you, but I don't expect you to give the answer, the yes or no, or just for discussion, I guess. Do we need a full-size basketball court for for the area, or would a half court do where we have a basket and kids can
And to
still
your
play
point,
it? Pick up?
Counselor, I won't answer your question.
I guess I'm
That's a
pointing out-
decision for council to make, whether you want a smaller space or a larger space that we just provided. Because that area is kind of delineated at the back of the old school. And so we figured if we're gonna pave that area, you might as well do the entire section behind the school. And but it's totally up to council to decide whether they want to, shorten that playing area or make it bigger.
And just last comment, Councilor has his hand up. I also, I guess I kind of agree. It's not in here for a cost, but when we talk about no fencing, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of places we have stuff that looks like we're in cages with our kids for them to enjoy themselves. And just looking at the area there, it is secluded. There is, especially the concrete barrier. So I think just from a looks perspective, it's probably a little bit more inviting for kids to go play where it doesn't look like they're, caged up for their activities. So I support that idea of not having that. Stop talking. And I grew up in the area too. I wasn't born in 72, but I grew up in.
Thank you, Councilor Russell, for starting up the discussion. I'll pass it over to Councilor Sanders.
So I know Mr. Poulan doesn't want to answer, but I can answer. A regular sized basketball court is 50 by 104. So what we've got projected right now is half court, 25 by 50. Yes, I get that the cement or pavement is a little more, but I mean, if you're gonna be doing the work, you're gonna be there regardless, right?
Basketball.
Anybody else? No, Councilor Larrabee.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I come for giving something for the kids to go and play. Probably not only the kids, but at least the kids to go play instead of playing on their phone. Definitely a good idea. So let's get them out to play. I'm in favor of giving to the kids.
Sorry,
Yeah.
nobody else was raising their hand, so if I can also add, just so council's aware, on Sunday, we had our first /rec committee meeting in Cache Bay, and the purpose is to obviously start raising funds for, let's say, for this particular area, for the lighting, or for the Cache Bay, our little building beside the rink and stuff like that. So we did have our first rec committee meeting to try to start raising funds to alleviate some of the costs on the municipality.
Madam Mayor, sorry, I almost called you Councilor.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. May I direct my question directly to Mr. Poulan? Sure. Thank you. How would you rate the general condition of the Cache Bay Community Center? I mean, I know we've had the building assessment on it, so I would just, I'm getting somewhere with this.
So can you be more specific?
If we wanted the building to look good, function properly, and address all the current accessibility needs within that building, how much would we have to spend?
I don't have that amount on the top of my head, but council's been provided with an overview of the executive summary from our building condition assessment. I don't think it's any secret that not only the Cache Bay Community Center, but probably 100% of our buildings do require some work. Mm-hmm. Whether it's AODA or upgrades or renovations or HVAC, I think all of our buildings are obviously in need of repairs.
And that one has some specific concerns like that. We're all aware, and the public's aware. The last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a roof leak in that building. I'm just trying to say, like, I guess there's significant investment required in that building if it's going to meet the long-term needs of the community.
Right.
And as we look at going through the official planning process, we've all identified at this table that Cache Bay as a community is an area that is ripe for urban service boundary expansion because it does have access to water and sewer, and it's a great place for West Nipissing to continue to grow, which means that asset will become more valuable to the community over time. And so I guess where I'm going with my thought process here is that I would love to see a basketball court in Cache Bay. But I think that the money could be much better spent on things that are really absolutely required to make sure that that building is actually standing 10 years from now. Because without significant investment in that facility and other recreational facilities, you're going to have a basketball court with no building on the lot. And so I think that's where I have challenges, is because we know that we have serious financial constraints in managing all the assets that we have already, including that specific facility. I would be absolutely in favor of taking the money allocated or the money suggested to be allocated for this project through the fund created through the sale of our real estate, and specifically earmarking that for improvements on the community center itself, to see that money invested in Cache Bay. But I would have a hard time supporting the creation of a new facility or a new asset when the asset that's already there needs so much work. And I would just like to shout out to our folks at Pickleball in Sturgeon Falls here. We had a request last year to invest a similar amount of money in order to fix an asset that we already have, like an existing asset. And because of the finances for that, we did turn that request down at that time. So I just kind of like to put that in context as well. But I think that spending money on our facilities is more important than creating a new outdoor space right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I understand what you are saying. However, all those other concerns that you speak of have been there for the last 10 years and nothing has been happening. All those other concerns that you speak of, we can apply for grants, whether it's OADA or whatnot. You speak of creating a new asset. You seem to forget this was an asset that we had and was taken away. So we're not creating a new asset. The asset was there, it was taken away when we built the rinks that we have now. And I'm just recommending or asking this council that we put back the asset that was there in the past. Thank you.
Yeah, just oh, sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to mention, like, I know when I was younger, we only had a gravel driveway, and I used to play basketball on my gravel driveway all the time. Like, are you still not able to play basketball at the outdoor rink? Like, that's a very compacted base, right? I used to play on very loose granular, and we play all the time. Like, I understand it may not be up to standard quite like it used to be, but that is what we used to do and got by just fine. Like, so maybe the cost would be just 2 nets at the rink anyways, and you can still at least shoot hoops, play 21, you know, instead of investing 120,000, it might be a thing of 5,000 instead. And you could still allow people to shoot and kind of play at the rink. I don't know if that's a possibility, because
Anything's a possibility. If council directs us to put basketball nets within the existing rink, we'll get it done. I mean, we're just looking for direction here.
thank you, I understand that. Sorry. Councilor Gagné?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just make the comment for Councilor St-Louis. Unfortunately, Cache Bay has decided, once you did your consultation, to go with a double path, and there was an added cost to that. There was a cost saving of building a regular ice rink, so your extra money that could have been used to probably build that path, I think it would have been used for that. So I'm in the same line as Madam Mayor. I think that money could be spent somewhere else. I like the idea of Conseiller to maybe look if it's possible, is if the ground at the outdoor rink is compact enough, whether it's pavement or compacted gravel, should be the kind of the same effect, and maybe look at the option of maybe putting nets there. So those are my comments. No, and one more. Has this been brought back to rec to see if the students that are there, is that a need for the students, or is this just a need for Cache Bay?
I guess Councilor St. Louis is also on the board. We did mention there was a a desire to have a basketball court. It wasn't necessarily Cache Bay or anywhere. I know when we had discussed the Goular Park redevelopment, there was talk about having that in there as well. It wasn't earmarked for a specific community. No,
Okay, thank you.
unless I didn't read the room right in the other meetings or.
No, during the rec committee meeting, that's what we had discussed. The comments were made that, again, most River Valley had basketball. There was the basketball at White Woods, and there's basketball available in other areas. So the thing was, there wasn't basketball available. To ask Conseil on, yeah, I understand what you're saying of the one rink compared to the double rinks, but you're not comparing apples and oranges. The difference, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was like $3,000 to $5,000. It wasn't $118,000.
Yeah, I think it was more like 20 or 30, but anyways, I just wanted to make the point. I don't think that
It still wouldn't have paid for a basketball court.
Thank you. Some different ideas. Councillor Nickel.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I like that your community has formed a little committee and they're going to start fundraising. So maybe we can pause the discussion here, let you guys do your thing over the summer and assess in the fall and come back to it. Happy compromise, maybe?
Thank you. Madam Mayor.
And through you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Provo, has there ever been any exploration done on, I know Sroli said you see all kinds of interesting things at conferences, about any kind of removable mat system or whatever that would allow the rinks to be used in the summertime for activities other than the hockey. So, you know, there's, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
And whether that would be a solution that could help create a playing surface at a more reasonable cost, because we have the base, we have the boards which provide, like, so the balls don't fly all over the place. And then the cost would be, you know, some kind of modular mat system that can be put down in the spring. And I actually think if they're affordable, it'd be a great idea for all of our outdoor rinks, because our outdoor rink season was literally 10 weeks this year. And we have facilities all over the municipality that are used for 10 weeks a year and then sit for the rest of the year without having any kind of useful purpose. So if there was some kind of cost-effective way that all of those facilities could be converted for multi-use in the summer, it certainly would be interesting, because all of the kind of building and construction and base work has been done, and it's kind of a creative way to see how we can maximize the usage of existing assets. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Restel.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I thought of that same thing when we were going around the table, and I think of our neighboring communities in Nipissing First Nation, Bokeys First Nation. I know both of those communities have an outdoor rink, and they both have I don't know what it's called, multi-use flooring or whatnot that they can use in the summer, and then they put their ice rinks on there as well. So I think it's designed to, you know, I know we talk about concrete versus and stones for developing ice in the winter, but I think there must be some kind of aspect to that flooring that helps build good ice on it during the winter. But it's also used during the summer. I know they have talk about different uses for it. They have community events and gatherings. They have sports in the summer that the kids, ball, hockey, basketball, different things like that. So I have no idea what the cost is, but maybe it's something we could look into as kind of a longer term investment. And like the mayor said, multi-use in these things, instead of having, 2 or 3 different areas for individual sports, we can maybe focus on one area that can accommodate different sports throughout the different seasons that we have. So maybe something to consider. And just my last comment is, I know it was suggested maybe to install, maybe as a short term, while we're looking at this, maybe install some basketball nets within the existing, hockey structure in Cache Bay to at least have something for the time being while we're working through this to see what we can do longer term. Just a suggestion.
I saw Conseil Saint-Louis at your.
No, that's right.
Conseiller Larrabee, and then we'll
Thank you.
start voting after this. Sir.
About the material that the mayor was talking about, I think you probably see that at AMO. They've got all, like this coming conference is over for the roads. So, but I do recall seeing some material like that in those conventions. So
Thanks, yeah. And I imagine our staff would be able to find that pretty easily too. It's been around for a while, that stuff now, so.
But my last comment is, I'm hearing the difficulty that we're getting into, and the comment was made years ago, is we are one of the cheapest municipality to live in, but staff cannot do everything with nothing. So when we go into the budget, we shouldn't raise tax out of proportion, but if we try to cut down, this is what happens. So maybe we should give 1 or 2 points at every budget, and we won't be the cheapest municipality, but we would get things that we want. Just word of advice.
Yeah, be a good thought to keep for the budget discussion this year there, and maybe it'll sway some people at budget. So just like to see a show of hands, we'll start with the proposal. Who would be in favor of approving the $119,000 behind the Cache Bay Community Hall? So that's not approved. So then we could look at different options right now, something simple in the short term, or we could request that staff comes back with even more cost efficient options. But I know now what's happening is we kind of just keep doing this, right? And we're putting staff through some work, and I'm not too sure if there's any suggestion there. Yeah.
Well, I was listening. So I think it's do nothing or a short-term option. I don't know what the base is. Is it crushed?
Yeah,
Is it
granular.
It's crushed?
Yeah.
Not a granular. It's like a crushed stone kind of thing that you put under paper? Or is it?
No, it's granular, compacted granular, I believe, yeah.
I mean, we can start the process if you want of putting nets up, if council directs us to do that. And I wouldn't want to waste time and then have a look at options at budget, or do nothing and wait till budget with a variety of different options at your disposal. So those are the questions, but.
Thank you. And just before we make that decision on the nets at the rink, as you're mentioning, that kind of started to scare me. The more people we invite to that, they might start digging or I don't know, kicking around, and then won't that disrupt the base as well? So I don't know if the better option would be temporary nets, maybe at the Cache Bay Hall, just up against the wall as they used to be. Or
That could be an option too.
just in case, right? Like, maybe we would keep it vague as put up temporary nets somewhere in Cache Bay, whether it's the hall or after there's some looking into done by you, just so that we don't have people there kicking up the granite. I don't know, pharmacy. Councilor Pellerin seems to think it's not an issue, but.
I wouldn't think so. If we do nothing else, then to maybe put 2 nets at the rink, I don't know. You guys know, you met with the students, the committees, would that be a second option for them? Just asking.
Yeah, our committee didn't necessarily mention anything specific to Cache Bay. It was just, I think this is more a request that came from Councilor St. Louis and some people at Cache Bay. So we can vote on who would, I guess we'll just start, we'll keep it simple. Who would vote to do nothing as of right now and revisit, or would that count?
No, that's a question you can ask.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start with doing nothing as of right now. That means staff doesn't go look at other options and it just kind of dies, the basketball idea in Cache Bay for right now. And then, so we'll vote on that. And then if that doesn't pass, then we'll move into the options. So as of right now, by a show of hands, who would like to look at options for basketball in Cache Bay? Like 5, so that's enough. Okay, so can we leave it at that and just that kind of direct staff to look at more options?
Sure. I mean, we can have a look at some of what was discussed today, and if it's within our means to do it this year, we'll bring it back to you without promising and getting your hopes high. Of course, we'll try and get it for this season, but if not, we will then certainly bring this back as a budgetary option for next year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barbeau. So that closes the Community Services Committee portion, and I'll pass it back to Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move to 5.5, which is our Sewer and Water Committee, and I'll pass the floor to Councillor Pellerin.
Madam Mayor, I guess I'll pass it on to Ms. Sennings. If you got any suggestions from your memo?
Okay, so no, nothing else from what's in my memo. PFAS, I guess maybe not as exciting as basketball, but it's synthetic chemicals. It's got a long real name that I'm not going to even try to pronounce. It's mostly found in firefighter foams, near landfills, just because of all the plastics and stuff like that, wastewater treatment plants, and the biggest source would be chemical manufacturing plants. It's currently not regulated to be tested for in drinking water sources that aren't located near any of these things. Ontario does have some of the strictest regulations in North America regarding drinking water. Unfortunately, that leads back to the Walkerton incident, and as you're all aware, like it's led to very stringent regulations and tests that are already done. So we do spend about $16,000 every year on different tests that we are regulated to do. PFAS has been found to be, it's throughout Canada just because everything's plastic. We have this stuff just in the environment now at this point, but it's typically in very low levels, which are considered to be safe. At this point in time, I wouldn't recommend testing our water source because we don't have any of these things like firefighting foams and wastewater treatment plants, and even the landfill is, I guess, technically upriver of the water treatment plant, but it is one located, I think it's over 1.5 kilometers away, and all of the effluent from the landfill drains towards the south. And there are monitoring wells all around the landfill to test, and anything that would be, well, nothing would be going towards the river. So it's not contaminating the river in any way. So my recommendation at this time, because the tests, it's approximately $1,000. The testing companies that we actually work with don't even test for this because it is so uncommon unless there's been a spill or something like that. It's typically not tested for in water sources that there'd be no known cause in it. So since it's about $1,000 per test, and there's no recommendation for testing for this, or how often you test anything like that, that's 6.25% of our entire testing budget at this time. I don't recommend that we begin testing for this.
Okay, thank you. Before I open it up to the floor, I brought it up. So l'idée m'est venue comme on va emmener l'eau de Sturgeon à Vernon. C'est pas juste ce cas-là. C'est que quand on a parlé de ça à North Bay, ça m'intriguait. Ça fait que j'ai été à ce meeting-là. J'étais à 2 meetings. Puis j'ai parlé avec le ministère de l'Environnement. Non, c'est pas un test qu'ils font comme c'est là, mais il n'était pas contre faire le test après que j'ai mentionné ce qu'on a ici à Sturgeon. Le Industrial Wood Mill qui est juste à côté, qui est là depuis, God knows, 100 ans. God knows qu'est-ce qu'il y a d'enterré là. La dompe, c'est peut-être pas downstream, mais comme la personne a dit que ça n'a rien à faire avec le upstream ou downstream, ça a rentré des veines d'eau. Fait que là, il y a des puits de gaspillés un peu partout, à des kilomètres de Lees Creek. So, le downstream et le upstream, il n'y a pas grand-chose à faire là-dedans. Puis moi, je me dis, pour 1000 pièces, c'est très, très cheap pour savoir si on a un problème ou sinon. C'est pas de faire l'autruche puis se mettre la tête dans le sable puis hope for the best. C'est 1000 pièces. Moi, toujours, c'est ça que je suggérais. Puis c'est ça que un des membres du ministère de l'Environnement me secondé là-dessus. Disons, là, il m'a parlé comment on ferait les tests, quels tests, puis tout ça. En tout cas, oui, M. Barbeau.
Bien, si c'est le cas, premièrement, ça dépend des définitions de ce que vous donnez à la personne au ministère de l'Environnement, mais définitivement, cette personne-là va dire test, et c'est correct. Et qu'on est sécure, le meilleur que c'est. Si c'est le cas que vous voulez avoir un test pour voir juste en termes de base. So basically, if they want to do one $1,000 test just to have a look at it, I'm not sure that's necessarily an issue. Or we're able to test one time and then have a look to see if there's any PFAS or.
We could get a firm price and add it to our budget. We'd have to find a testing company that's willing, that does it in our area, but.
Well, if it's $1,000 per one test.
For one test, yes.
That wouldn't necessarily be a budgetary problem, would it?
No.
So, I'm just saying. So if that's the wish of council, it's one of these undecided or one of these things with a recent controversy about what we were doing at the landfill, which, was not an issue. But if it puts anything to rest, then certainly that's probably better in terms of transparency for the public in order to assuage fears or anything that we've got some sort of chemicals in our water that we shouldn't be drinking. So if that's the case, we can pursue the one test and have a look at that and provide that back to council as the analysis as to whether it's something that's a concern or not.
Certainly, if that's what council wishes, we can do it.
Let's see. Okay. Ms. Conseiller Westphal, there's another person.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the comment. Esteemed technical leader. For myself, I look at the information provided by staff and I look at all of the actualities of where water comes from, where it gets tested. I understand the mill is downstream. I don't think chemicals are going to go upstream. That's not how, it's not how physics work. It goes one way and that's generally how it is. But given what we do on an annual basis through our current water system, we haven't had any issues. We haven't had any, when I did a little bit of research on this, I see that some of the concerns from this come from specific situations that arise, like what happened in North Bay. They had their own issue. That's why they got into this, is because of chemicals that were used there, and they're following up on that just to make sure it's safe. I don't think we've had anything like this. I can't say 100% because I'm not an expert in this, but I know we go through our regular tests. We have everything, and like our technical lead here shared, we follow the ministry guidelines in terms of what we need to do. Okay, my first thought is no, I don't think we need this. It's $1,000 that we could use for 2 nets in Cache Bay and use it something effectively. But if it's something that we want to do for transparency and say we did the test, and I'll say waste $1,000 on something I don't think we need to test. It's up to all of us around the table to decide that. But I think we're doing everything that we need to do, everything that we're through ministry guidelines that we should be doing, we're doing. We do the stuff related to the landfill and anything that could come from there. That's being tested regularly as well. And like I mentioned, the old mill site is downstream, so it doesn't impact the intake of water that gets treated for residents in West Nipissing, Sturgeon Falls. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure we'll have other comments around the table.
Thank you, Councillor Resto. Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree totally with my colleague here, Councillor Resto. If there was anything that would come out of the municipal waste site or the dump, we would catch it with the wells that are around.
Yes.
So, and I know I was part of the system with River Valley Waste, and I know how it works, and if there was anything, it would be caught. So, to agree with this would only appease the mind of some people that likes to find faults with the system, because there is no way that that it could bypass the system that's already in guard.
Councillor Larrabee. Councillor Rivard.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. For $1,000, if it gives peace of mind and, eliminates any kind of thought that there'd be an issue out there, there isn't just the landfill, there isn't just the mill site, there's, all sorts of things that can come up. It doesn't necessarily mean, would this test strictly be for PFAS, or would it show other things?
No, it would just be PFAS.
Okay, and from what I understood, Conseiller Perrin he came to one of our environmental service meetings and he mentioned that he had asked if PFAS was, he asked if PFAS was tested for in our landfill tests. So I'm just wondering if it's not there, if we're not testing it anywhere, this is the way that we can determine if there's PFAS. I strongly believe that there won't be PFAS, but can I say for certain? No, I didn't do the test and I have no clue.
So in the landfill, there would be PFAS because there's plastic. So yes,
okay.
you would test, if you were tested in the landfill for PFAS, you would get PFAS, certainly.
So we have been testing for PFAS at our landfill.
I don't believe we have been. No, we're testing for a lot of things at the landfill, but PFAS is just a known chemical at the landfill.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
people throw away plastics and.
Oh yeah, and I'd just like to add to with I'm pretty aware of what happened in North Bay, so to have that peace of mind, if we can tell people confidently there is no PFAS for $1,000, I think that's a pretty simple request.
Thank you, Councillor Rivard. Councillor Farrin. Go ahead, Mr. Farrin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, for me, it's not a matter of transparency. It's a matter, as Councillor Rivard said, it's peace of mind. And I think there is some concern in the community. And for $1,000, it's achieving peace of mind for very little money. So I don't even think we should be having this discussion. I think for me, it's a no-brainer, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Farrin. Madam Mayor.
Does Health Canada have a defined safe limit on PFAS within drinking water sources?
No, I wasn't able to find a safe limit that they have. So I'd have to do some more research into that.
Okay.
But I'm assuming that if we were having a lab do the testing, that
they would
they
have
would
a
hopefully-
threshold or whatever
Yeah,
that
no,
was
the
defined. Because I'm like,
threshold
if we're not measuring against something,
well, because yes.
because is there going to be some evidence of PFAS?
Well,
We can't say. There probably will be.
There probably will be some
but
evidence. There will be
Because I
evidence.
don't think there's likely a body of water or a piece of land that's not impacted
Exactly.
in some way or another. I agree with everybody here. So I agree with Councillor Larrabee and Councillor Restool and that the fact that I don't believe that we're going to find anything of concern. But for peace of mind, I have no issue spending $1,000 for a test. Is there any value in actually doing two tests? So one upstream of the landfill and one near to the water plant intake to see whether the levels are any different? Do you know what I'm saying?
Like one closer to the landfill and then.
Like one past the landfill. So upstream. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I don't
to
think
see-
there's any
you know what I
value in
mean?
that. I think what you want to be doing is testing
Testing near
your
the
drinking
intake.
water. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, because we work on the environmental services file very closely, that the groundwater and that the flow is not going that way.
Yeah.
That would be going uphill. So it actually is flowing to the degree, and we have our monitoring stations that tell us that. So it's every year it tells us it's not going that way, it's going that way. So that would be no advantage doing that.
Thank you. And I'll just say one more thing. The other reason I would support this is that Councillor Pellerin is our chair of water and sewer. He has taken the time to attend these meetings and get this information on behalf of the community and to share with council. And it's something that he has put the time and effort in and he believes in, and for that reason, I will also support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other comments or questions? I'll just finish it. No, they don't test for the PFAS test. The PFAS test involves about something like 1,200 substance, and it's something that your body cannot get rid of. So that's why when I went to North Bay, it's a new test, and the city of North Bay, their water is twice the acceptable level as per the Ministry of Ontario or Canada. So they've got big investment to make in there. So, anyway, so having said that, who's in favor of doing the $1,000 test? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has passed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We'll move to item number 6, our regular meeting, first item being our consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Rasool. Be it resolved that the consent agenda for the council and committee of the whole meeting held on March 15, 2025 be approved as presented.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 6.3 new business. Under 6.3.1, there is a memo from staff in regards to waiving the provisions of our travel policy in order to allow our members to attend the FONAM conference, which is at the beginning of May and will be held in North Bay this year. I think the provisions that are, I don't know if it's spelled out there, is that conference registration, if council chooses to waive the policy, council registration, or sorry, event registration would be covered, but no per diem or mileage would be paid on that. Is that correct?
Well, that would be up to council. If you're waiving and you're going to a third and you wish to get your expenses covered, that would be a council decision.
Okay, so with that, the memo is there. I'll have Madam Clerk read the resolution in.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas policy 1999-131 as amended provides that members of council may attend no more than 2 conferences or seminars annually. And whereas the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities FONAM conference will be held in North Bay from May 5th to 7th, which conference will not necessitate any overnight accommodations or travel expense for council members, be it resolved that the provisions of policy 1999-131 as amended be waived to permit members of council who wish to attend the FONAM conference in North Bay to do so.
Okay, so the way that resolution reads is that travel expenses are not required.
That's correct.
So my take on that is that the registration would be paid, but we would not be submitting mileage. I want to be clear on what the accepted.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, so we would not, if you choose to go, you would cover your own mileage and there would be no per diem paid on that is there questions or comments in regards to the resolution? Okay, Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it was decided years ago that if it's the neighboring municipality, you'd want to go and support them. So it would not count as one of the tools that you're allowed to have. So I'm in favor of this.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll put the vote. All those in favor, resolution 4. That's carried. Thank you. 6.3.2, quotation for generator upgrades at the water treatment plant.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas tenders were called for water treatment plant genset upgrades, and whereas 6 tenders were received, and whereas the manager of water and wastewater has reviewed the tenders and is satisfied that the award being recommended herein consists of the best prices meeting all specifications, and whereas council concurs with the recommendation received, be it resolved that the tender for the water treatment plant genset be awarded to Bernard Rochfort Limited, having submitted the lowest quotation of $784,985, meeting all specifications.
Questions or comments? I'll ask the standard. I believe we did budget 900.
Yes, and all of the awards are under budget this evening.
Okay. Nice. Okay, and so that is the question that I have. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Restool. Whereas requests for proposals were sought for the old Highway 17 bridge structure, and whereas 7 proposals were received, and whereas the proposals have been reviewed and the award being recommended herein consists of the best prices meeting all specifications, and whereas council concurs with the recommendation received, be it therefore resolved that the proposal for the old Highway 17 bridge structure be awarded to Deep Construction with a bid of $491,752.50, meeting all specifications.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Councillor Ferrer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm surprised that we haven't been given the prices that were submitted by each bidder. But I guess I'm a bit more surprised that we went for an RFP for this and not simply a request for tender or a request for quotation. I think I'd like to see each price that was submitted, or at least the lowest and the highest bids. That's what we'd usually get to see on a project like this. But I don't understand why for the last 2 bridges on Eugene and Levac, we asked for tenders and simply took the best price from among approved contractors, but for this one, we score them on various factors. I mean, is there a reason in this case why we suddenly need to change our procedures?
Yes, so the reason behind this was the idea was rather than replace this with a bridge, we wanted to look at options of replacing it with a culvert. So we're doing it a bit like a design build, where we went out with, we would like it to convey this much water, and what would you propose? So this is a way of basically saving on consultant fees, because of the fact that this could be an easy replacement with a culvert rather than doing a full bridge and a full design. So we did have actually one of these was 1 or 2 were actual bridges that were submitted. And then we got several different culvert options and different designs. So it's kind of leaving things a little bit to see what the contractors could provide for us, rather than going out for a full design when ultimately we could look at just replacing the structure with some culverts.
What were the other prices? Because what was the best price?
So the lowest price, I'd have to look, because the ranking, so price is only 50%.
It would be, I'd say.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so the lowest price, it was, I believe.
We don't usually give the pricing on an RFP process. So an RFP process is based on a lot of other information, and the pricing doesn't fit the same way as far as proprietary information as a request for quote or request for tender. So we don't usually release the pricing on on it. Deep was not the lowest price, but they proposed a structure that provided a lot of different advantages that the lowest price simply did not provide, which is why that you see the difference in the scoring between them. But it was scored as an RFP is scored.
And I did reach out to the bidder with the lowest price for clarification to ask if they were providing some of the same things that the other contractors with higher prices were providing, what those prices would be, and their prices would have been much higher had they been providing those things.
Okay, but we know we have a bid at a lower price, and I'd be very surprised if that contractor got to do the job, that we wouldn't end up with a bridge or some means to drive over this creek. So I have to say I'm struggling with the fact that we're taking a higher price when we could be achieving what we want to achieve with a lower price.
Well, the lower price would be something with a much higher construction risk and a much higher risk of change order during construction.
So,
Sorry, can you that and explain a little bit what it means?
So the lower price would, it would have been a very bare bones install that would come with a much higher risk of change orders during construction and a much higher risk of just a design that ultimately doesn't work well. So that's why we did reach out to clarify if they were to do the extra things that the other contractors were putting in there. And to do those things, their price would be much higher.
Yeah, to put a finer point on it, Eugene Road Bridge was a tender that did not pass because it was very spec oriented, and then we looked at other options and found a lower price, right? So in this case, we actually don't want to repeat that, and we look at the solutions, but we have technical experts that look at the bids to ensure that whatever these contractors are bidding, they're not bidding necessarily to a spec. So they're going to bid something. So let's say you're the lowest price and you bid 300 grand, but you're not going to have a bridge. It's kind of like counterintuitive, isn't it? So that's why there's a weighting system when you're asking for proposals to see what solution is the best one that meets your standards. And so that is an acceptable procurement strategy, Councillor Fedin. It's in our procurement bylaw and it's an acceptable strategy, and it's known, that's procurement 101. If it is a known standard that we're tendering and we're asking on a similar bid, then yes, I agree with you. But if we're asking for solutions, then the solutions have to meet our requirements, and price is only one factor.
I'll just speak. I have a little bit of the same discomfort, specifically because the price seems to be so different. So from a 31 to the recommended on the recommended to a 50, which is obviously the lowest price. But when you look at the ranking overall and the scoring overall, there's only a 3-point difference in the total scoring of the bids. And so, you know, if the ranking of the bids overall had shown a significant difference in the scoring between the different proponents, that would justify such an increase in cost, then it's one thing. But when you're looking at a 3-point difference in the total ranking overall, and I'm not the math expert, but what looks to be probably a 30% savings, maybe more than that. So we could be looking at $150,000 difference in price. We don't know because it's not there, but the ranking is so close that when you look at price as an important factor in our budgeting, you know, are those 3 points worth $150,000?
Well, the reverse argument, Madam Mayor, can be held because there's only a 3-point difference, and price makes up a 19% differential on that. So they get the maximum amount on price, but they don't satisfy quality or the ability to give certainty on the other aspects. So, you know, of course, they're going to get a high ranking and very close on that, but it's in the other rankings that where is a concern for the future quality of the job. And so your experts have looked at that, have weighted that, and have looked at the total value. So if you wanted to throw that out and you just said price, fine, but expect then I would actually retender it with a specific spec. I would throw this away and tender out a specific solution. But in this case, this basically, based on the analysis, is the best price for quality, price, quality, service. This is the best solution. I don't even know what the names are. I'm not even looking at it, but I'm looking at the numbers. And with all due respect, the 3-point difference is not is clear because they basically jack the price down. So if you want to win every bid, and that's what you're going to look at, you'll jack the price down, but then you'll lower the quality or what's expected to have a bridge that will withstand what is necessary for our residents. So, you know, at this point, there'd be a vote or a resolution on the floor, but the recommendation from staff is to award this request for proposal to the person with the highest ranking.
Councillor Callery?
Me too. I'm not an expert in this, but the first column, it says overall experience. And we've got one that scores 19, and then we got Ed Seguin that scores at 9, which was the contractor who built the Eugene Bridge and the one on Levac Road, if I'm not mistaken. So where does that come from? A 10-point difference in experience.
On that, we're looking at the experience that they actually put into the proposal. I'm not going out and looking at what each of these contractors have done. They're all very qualified to do this job. But what they actually put in their proposal for comparable jobs, one put a lot more into their proposal than the other one did.
So you have to go with what's on paper.
Anyway, to me, it's confusing, and they should be bidding on apples and not apples and oranges. It seems like we get two kinds of different. We're just crossing one little creek. I don't know.
Councillor Ferrer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other point I wanted to make is when I look at the weightings, we're allocating % of the score to scheduling, and I'm wondering why. Why does it even matter when this is done? It affects 20 properties, 13 on one side, who have to do a slight detour via Moose Teak Road to get onto the highway if they're going east, and then 7 properties on the other side who have to do a very short detour if they're heading west. So I don't see what difference it makes if one contractor can do it quicker than the other, if that's what that implies. I mean, this is not the Eugene Road Bridge where 100-odd waterfront properties have been waiting 5 years for their road to be paved. Scheduling, in my opinion, in something like this is not really relevant, unless you're saying the bridge is about to fall down.
So yes, the bridge is a critical replacement. In terms of scheduling, it's not just a matter of how long they took, it's them showing that they can properly schedule the work and that they have a good understanding of what needs to be done. So in their schedules, they're showing their mobilization, all of their different work procedures are in those schedules. So that's what they're being ranked on, not necessarily how short of a time frame that they're doing it in.
All right, just as a follow-up, or the last point I'm going to make is, I find this as a counselor, I find I'm being asked to make a decision completely blind, because using this process, it kind of excludes us totally from the thought process and how we conclude whether we should pay 491,000 or we should pay an amount that I don't know because I'm not being told. So I can't vote for this. I can't vote to accept this bid.
Councillor St. Louis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Conseiller Pellerin said a while ago. He's not an expert. We're not expert. We are asked to put faith in our staff that are the expert and provide us with information. That's what they've been doing. And all of a sudden, we're not, for whatever reason, tonight agreeing with them. Staff are the expert. This is what they're providing us. I understand the concerns, but I think at some point in time, we need to agree and accept that those are the expert. I'm not. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rivard.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'd just like to add too, like we can nitpick some of these numbers, but then the one number, material quality, is higher than the rest as well. Right? So I'm not an expert in this, but this isn't necessarily like blind or not knowing, because there's a lot of factors here that go into the rating, and this is what they do. Staff, sorry, not they. And it seems to have worked for us. I just want to move forward with this. I did check too. It comes in about 209,000 under budget as well. So it's still way under budget, which is very nice. We're still getting a brand new bridge for this road.
Okay, other questions or comments? Councillor Resto.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm going to keep this really super generic with my comment. I appreciate the work that's gone in. I do agree with Councillor St. Louis and those others around the table. We have experts. I don't know anything about building a bridge, but looking at some of the factors, and this is where I'm going to keep it very general, through experience when I've been sitting around the table, I'm a little bit surprised when I look at some of the grades that have been given here based on history. And I'll just leave it at that. I appreciate the comment that, the experience and demonstrated results is based on the application. I'm looking a little bit further than that, but I'll leave it at that. I'm surprised at some of the ratings.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? There is a resolution on the floor. All those in favor? That passes. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Restoul and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas requests for quotations were sought for a pickup truck with a plow, and whereas 2 quotations were received, whereas the Manager of Public Works has reviewed the quotation and is satisfied that the award recommended herein consists of the best prices meeting all specifications, and whereas Council concurs with the recommendation, be it resolved the quotations for the pickup truck with plow be awarded to Savage Ford in the amount of $95,618.04, being the lowest quotation meeting all specifications.
You said 94 when you read that?
95.
It's 84.
It's 84,66950 according to the bid sheet.
Is that
Yeah, that's correct.
84?
669.
669.5 plus HST.
That's what we have in our resolution.
It's in the resolution.
That's
Yeah,
what's in our
I didn't look
resolution.
at the summary. I'm sorry.
No, it's also in the resolution.
Your paper resolution's not
Your
right.
paper resolution is, are you reading the pickup truck?
That's for next year.
No, it says 95,618.04 on my resolution. It's in my package.
Yours include time. Yours doesn't. No, just because.
That's what it is. Yeah, I think
Oh, I'm
I don't
looking at
know.
the French, is
The
the
what-
English? Oh,
No,
no,
the
I'm
English one
looking
is
at English.
84.
that's the with HST price. The
That's
melt.
with HS.
That's the with HST price. What's on here is the without HST price. 'cause
Okay,
it worked
I just
before
wonder why
taxes.
Yeah, but
Different.
like I say, our package shows the resolution with the correct price, so I don't know where, Madam Clerk.
Unless it was changed out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so, it's
84,
been amendment
84,
on a housekeeping
669.05.
issue. Councillor, okay. I'm not getting the gavel, but,
I have a question.
Councillor Larrabee?
I see that the truck's being replaced and also the plow. Couldn't the plow fit on the next truck that we're buying instead of buying a plow and a truck? Because those plows, sometimes they last, if the plow is done, okay. Or are they giving us enough for truck and plow in exchange?
I would have to look into that. I'm sorry. I don't have. the
Usually though,
answers.
if you're asking for a plow, it's because they figure they need the truck and plow. Or, you know. And that was what was
Typically, if we can reuse, we would, so.
what was budgeted.
Yes, that was what was budgeted.
So you approved the budget and this is what we're going for, so you have to assume that's what they need.
Because, well, just to add to the comment is, a lot of times you'll see plows on a truck that'll last for years, but it's not, they're probably not the same type of work or the amount of work that the municipality
We'll
puts on.
certainly bring back the comment and be mindful of the fact that, I hope they're not just doing lump sum without looking at it.
Mhm.
Questions, other questions or comments? Okay, resolution on the floor. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Astoul and seconded by Councillor Larrabee, whereas tenders were called for the Werner Composite Elevated Water Tower rehabilitation, and whereas 2 quotations were received, and whereas the manager of water and wastewater has reviewed the tenders and is satisfied that the award being recommended herein consists of the best prices meeting all specifications, and whereas council concurs with the recommendation, be it resolved that the tender for the Werner Composite Elevated Water Tower rehabilitation be awarded to Landmark Municipal Services, being the lowest quotation meeting all specifications.
Any questions or comment? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And yes. It is moved by Councillor Astoul and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-23, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to establish an administrative monetary penalty system, shall come into force and take effect on the first day of May 2025.
Can I ask a question? Are there individual resolutions for each of the underlying bylaws, or does this resolution cover all of the specific changes on the
No, each
child bylaws?
They're all separate.
Okay, I just didn't know whether we were doing another 7 of these. Okay, questions or comments? I'll just say I know that the implementation of the system has been a lot of work from an administrative perspective, first developing the new bylaw and then reviewing all the child bylaws and implementing those changes. I'd like to thank the staff for the work that's gone into this because I think it's a really important initiative that will modernize the way we do bylaw enforcement, and I don't underestimate the amount of work that it took to put it all together. Thank you. Resolution on the floor. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-24, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to amend the penalty section of the care and control of dogs, cats, and domestic animals, bylaw number 2020-67, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-25, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to amend the penalty section of the private entrances bylaw 2017-39, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. All right, thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-26, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to amend the penalty section of the traffic and parking bylaw 2019-60, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions and comments? All those in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-27, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to amend the penalty section of the short-term rental accommodations bylaw 2024-23, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Nicol. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-28, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing to amend the penalty section of the open air burning bylaw 2024-79 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
All the, questions or comments? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And be it, it is moved by Councillor Nichol and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-29, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing municipality to amend the penalty section of the standards and vital services for the maintenance of physical condition and occupancy of property bylaw shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions or comments? That is the property standards bylaw, by the way. That was an early all in favor. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Nichol. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-30, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing to amend the penalty section of the noise control bylaw shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. We will shortly have ants in the municipality. What's that?
I'm just
I
wondering.
do, we need a motion to extend right now.
Yes, and I
Uh,
does someone have the rest of the
You're
resolutions on their desk?
proposing, I need a seconder as well. please.
They have the second.
Rivard and Gagne, motion to extend.
C'est une motion, ça? Non.
We have.
Councillor Rivard, Councillor Gagne.
At approximately 9:30, it's moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Gagne. At approximately 9:30 p.m., a motion was tabled to extend the meeting beyond the regular curfew in order to proceed with the regular agenda.
Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Oh, are we all putting our hands up? Okay, thank you, Carrie. I know we're getting tired, thank you. I won't take long on the mayor's report. We do have a closed session. I will say that last week, Yao launched their 5-year strategic plan. It's a really great vision for the future of the organization and this. And I'd just like to acknowledge their appreciation for their continued involvement in our community. West Nipissing Sudbury East Federation of Agriculture has their farm conference this weekend, Saturday, March 22nd, starting at 8:30 a.m. at the Marcel Noel Hall, and I'm looking forward to attending that. I would like to also congratulate the West Nipissing Hospital Foundation for their successful shamrocking event on Saturday, which I believe funds are being earmarked for a new mammography mission in West Nipissing Hospital. So with that, I will take a resolution. I'm sorry now. Sorry, I'm Madame Duchamp. I told you it would be fast. Resolution to proceed into closed session.
Unfortunately, I am missing. Does anyone have on their desk the rest of the resolutions?
Is it for the club?
Yes?
Yeah.
Burn had it. I had it in.
Consider it excited.
Oh, sorry, I was. They came in too late. Oh, that's it. That was.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and Councillor Gagne. Be it resolved that we proceed into closed meeting as authorized in section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees.
Okay, all in favor? Harry? Thank you.
Councillor Ferrin, I'm going to stop the record. I'm going to end the meeting and restart so I have a separate recording. So do you mind logging back in?